I just asked her to make sure that my comment about her would be appropriate. I think, well, and she said yes. We're ready to tell you. No, she is director of agriculture, but she's not an expert on no-till. So she likes to come to our conferences, our field days, to learn more about what we're doing. No-till farming, cover crops, soil health. We think it's so important. And welcome somebody. Wanting to learn. Appreciate that.
Talking now, you don't know whether you need a rain or whether that's voice or whether it's the microphone.
It's about H2O high.
Got real scratchy.
And every time I say it, I seem like I always want to say H2OH. It's kind of comes natural that way. But we're glad to have her talk about anything she wants to. I don't have to make stuff for today. We're just glad to have you here.
And having their annual meetings too, so it's been an opportunity for me to meet them, talk with them about East Ohio. Today was the second day of the annual Farm Bureau Convention, so I joined them for lunch to share a few comments there as well. So glad to round out my day by being with you folks here. Again, my name is Dorothy Pelanda. I live on the family farm where I was raised in Marysville, very close to the Honda plant. You know, growing up on that farm, the issues of wildlife management, invasive species, and conservation were things that my mom and my dad and my siblings dealt with every day. And I think it was the late 70s, early 80s when we began to notice that the 10-acre pond we fished in and that 4-acre pond that we swam in began to look very different than it had in years past. And so working with our extension office, working with our soil and water conservation district office, we learned that what we were doing on our fields was having a direct impact on that beautiful body of water. And so we learned to be good stewards of the land, and we learned to be good stewards of the water. I graduated from Marysville High School and then Miami University, and then the University of Akron School of Law. And after graduating from Akron, I joined my dad in the practice of law after he retired from the bench. And I practiced law for 30 years in my community, representing most of the farmers in the area. In 2011, I was appointed to be a state representative for the same community, and once again represented these people, but now in a different capacity as a legislator. This past January, I was honored to be appointed by Governor DeWine as the Director of Agriculture, and I truly believe that all the things I've done in my past life have brought me to this point because, as my father taught me, the key to success in anything you do is your ability to build and sustain relationships. And in this new job that I have, the relationships that I have in the legal community, certainly the relationships in the legislature have been key to me as I began this new job. Of course, within weeks of being appointed, I was confronted with the budget, the state budget, and what parts of it related to agriculture. You know, the governor in his inaugural address said some very significant and poignant things. At one point, he talked about his grandfather being stricken with cancer, planting hundreds of trees on their family farm. And as a young man, he was struck by that and thought, what a thing for him to do. He's not going to live to see them grow or blossom or produce fruit. Why is he doing that? But now he is at that point in his life where he says we do it because we know it's the right thing and it's for the benefit of future generations to come. Very shortly after that, he rolled out his plan for H2 Ohio and dedicated $900 million in that budget to water quality efforts. Of course, the legislature is actually the body that adopts or creates the final piece of legislation. And what they said with regard to H2 Ohio was this. Governor, we're going to give you $158 million of that $900 million that you're requesting. We're going to give it to you for 2 years. And at the end of 2 years, you come and tell us what you did with that and how you measured success. More specifically, the legislature gave the Department of Natural Resources $46 million, EPA $8.6 million, and OEA $30 million. course of the last 11 months, the three directors, I call them the three sister agencies, have been meeting weekly for hours, traveling the state, having conversations with farmers to talk about what they're doing on the land. How are they conserving nutrients? How are they conserving and managing water on their properties? We surrounded ourselves with best experts that we could find from around the world, scientists from around the world that came to us and talked to us about the best information available, the best data available about what is causing algal blooms, what is happening with this phosphorus that's loading into Lake Erie. And so with that in mind, we looked at several interventions with a mind to which of these interventions have the best return on investment, what we can use our money for. And so a couple of weeks ago, Governor DeWine rolled out his plan for H2 Ohio, in which, with regard to ODA, we are going to fund basically 10 interventions that farmers can apply to their local soil and water district office for funding to engage in these practices. Now, getting back to ODNR and EPA for a minute, ODNR has stated that they are going to dedicate their $46 million to redesigning and creating new wetlands across the state. EPA has said that they're going to take their $8.6 million and begin to repair failing septic systems in some rural communities. Governor DeWine likes to say, you know, Lori and Mary have the short game, but Dorothy has the long game, because we know that the things that we're going to do are not going to have an immediate visible result, at least in terms of water quality, in the next 2 years. And so how am I going to stand before the legislature a year from now this month and tell them how I'm measuring success? So the governor and I made a very difficult decision. And what we decided to do with our $30 million was to devote that money to the Maumee Basin for the first 2 years, so that we could have a specific area that we could target, and by doing so, actually target 14 counties that we're going to work with for the next year and a half. Each of those counties we have determined through our experts are going to be afforded a goal, the number of acres that county can get signed up for one or several 10 interventions. So soil testing, you know, there are a lot of farmers who say, well, I've been soil testing for years, but we all know of farmers who are not soil testing. Conversations with farmers across the state have said to me, yeah, I've got a soil test, I don't know how to read it, it sits on my shelf, I paid for it, and I don't know. So one of the things that we're going to incentivize farmers to do who are on that level is to say, we're going to pay for a soil test, we're going to pay for a nutrient management plan so that you can understand how those two things work together. Now, the basic philosophy behind H2 Ohio is twofold. Every farmer in the lower basin is eligible for H2 Ohio funding because every farmer, regardless of what they're doing right now, can improve their practices. But as we look at some of these, we know that subsurface nutrient application is going to be a far more expensive venture than soil test. And so how do I take that $30 million and allocate it in the right way? Well, in comes a group called OACI. This group began forming early this year, and it's a partnership with the commodities, the nature conservancies and other environmental groups, the research entities, including OSU, Heidelberg, and others, and Stone Lab, who have all come together saying, you know, in the past, we were at war with each other. And now is the time for us to come together and say, there's only one way this is going to work, and that is that we come together and work together as Dorothy's boots on the ground to get these farmers signed up for these practices. In essence, how the program is going to work is really an expansion of the Senate Bill 299 program that we initiated through ODA earlier this year. Once the OACI members identify a farmer, talk with him, and incentivize him to go to his local soil and water district office to sign up for various practices, then those practices will be funded. The OACI has come up with something they call a certification program. Now that means nothing more than an approach whereby they have a built-in trusted relationship with the farmer, where they can talk to them about what they're currently doing, and that they're going to certify them to engage in the program of H2 Ohio. Certification, I think they decided is going to last for up to 3 years, so that farmers don't have to keep going back to that certification. But we'll be monitoring and reviewing what they're doing and how many acres each county has enrolled as we go along. Last week, I hired Clark Hudson from Hancock County to be my person up in the Maumee Basin. Clark is going to coordinate and be the leader for all of those 14 counties at this point to make sure, A, they have the staff they need, B, that we are creating a uniform application process, C, that he's coordinating with my boots on the ground folks to get farmers signed up, and B, that he's getting feedback as to which of these practices are seeing some farmers are having an appetite for, which ones are not so popular, and why. We know this because Kirk Hines and my team at ODA have gone through this through our Senate Bill 289 program. We found that the $20 million that the legislature gave me for this program had various successes and various things that farmers said, yeah, I'm not interested in that. So too will be this. I mean, cover crops, let's talk about cover crops. Visiting the farm at no-till day, we talked about the fact that this is a long-term process. Farmers are not going to see an immediate financial benefit from that. It's going to take a long time. Cover crops aren't appropriate even for a farmer's entire farm. So educating farmers about trying some of these practices with our help and our funding is going to be key. Another group of people that Governor DeWine has engaged is our agribusinesses, Land O'Lakes, Nutrient, Cargill. And we've come to those folks and say, not only do we not want you to help us with the research you have already, but there's going to be some big dollars when we talk about machinery that will apply manure and fertilizer subsurface. And so we're working with them to see if we can get involved in a lend-lease program for some of these more expensive equipments where farmers can actually try this machinery before having to make some kind of investment on their own. Again, these are things we're going to try. The governor said, for now, this is the program that we're going to engage in. For now, this is going to be a voluntary program. For now, we are counting on our partnerships with our commodities, our environmental groups, and our researchers to move this needle forward. So, our team has been up in the Maumee Basin since July, getting those soil and district and water district offices ready for this program. We have already begun preparing an application that will be uniform, trying to make it as simple as possible for farmers, answering questions and coming together weekly with OACI to iron out the details. If I'm already enrolled in one program, does that deny me the application or eligibility for H2 Ohio crops? Can I apply for multiple interventions, or am I limited to one? The communication between OACI and the agribusinesses and ODA is critical to moving forward. It's an experiment, but I will tell you this, the governor has said more than once, I am committed to reducing phosphorus by 40% by the year 2025. That's not what I said, that's what the governor said. And so this proposal is how we're going to embark upon this for the first biennium. Now, as a legislator, I'm always mindful that it's the legislature that's going to control what we spend on this. Right now, there are 2 pieces of legislation pending in the General Assembly. The first is House Bill 7, which is an endowment fund. The second is Senate Bill 2, which is a bond measure. But what that says to me is that both the Senate and the House are committed to providing further long-term funding for water quality improvement, knowing that this first 2 years funding is sorely inadequate when we're tackling the problems we're tackling. I guess before I get to questions, I would say, it has been an interesting journey over the last 11 months. Mary and Lori and I have listened patiently to many a group, many an individual who has the silver bullet to solving water quality. It's been a difficult thing for us because we're not scientists, we're not soil researchers, and yet there's a lot of theories out there about how we can fix it. And so the difficulty for me is to decide how best to spend really the $50 million, $20 million from Senate Bill 299, which will be coming again to me, and then the $30 million that the legislature gave me. But as I stand before that legislature next year, I know that with the partnerships we have, we will be able to tell the legislature about the successes we've achieved in terms of the acreage that we've signed up to engage in these practices. Lastly, I will tell you that one of the challenges we had is that we are dealing with phosphorus in Lake Erie. The other bodies of water, Lake Superior, Lake Huron, are dealing with nitrogen. So true in the Ohio River. And so when we talk about how we're dealing with this particular issue, we have to be mindful that we are dealing with a phosphorus issue and not a nitrogen issue when it comes to what we're trying to address at this point. So that's what I have to say about H2 Ohio. Of course, I need to touch upon hemp. We're right now getting ready to license farmers to grow hemp next spring. We're building a hemp lab so that we can test hemp and also test CBD products. We're also going to return to the 90s at ODA, which at that time, ODA had a working farm on it. I'm committed to doing that because I believe the two things that ODA does most importantly are education and safety. Safety in the food we eat and the plants and animals that surround us, and of course the amusement rides that we enjoy. My goal is to have that be a living thing again, where children and families can come and learn about where food comes from and how it's processed, and truly begin to understand how farmers each and every day play a vital role. So thank you. I'm ready at this point for any questions you may have. Yes, sir.
Over the last couple of years, we've been hearing that there's 5 different steps that really make regenerative ag work. And I look at Water, Ohio, and I see you got one of them, but the other 4 didn't make the cut.
Well, let me tell you the process that we went through. We hired a professional think tank. We started out with 300 interventions. And we made a war room. We surrounded that war room with sheets about the relative cost of each of the interventions, what was happening with these 300 interventions statewide, and then reduced it to 100, then 30, and then 10. We're going to reassess this at the end of next year. If these things are not resulting in the changes that we want or need to see, the governor is going to sit down again and reassess it. We have really gone through a professional thought process about which ones for this first biennium we're going to fund. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm not sure I understood something you said, and I wanted to check. You talked about going to Cargill and some of those companies, and you was talking about the subsurface nutrient application. I get asked this question by a lot of the local co-ops that actually apply fertilizer. If I understood you right, is there going to be money in this to help those businesses buy that expensive equipment so that farmers can try it?
Well, that's the goal, and so we're in negotiations right now, both with whether or not I'm going to use ODA money to actually purchase the machines, deliver them to the Soil and Water Conservation District so we can have some kind of a lease program for farmers to try these machines and the like. We're still in negotiations with our agribusinesses and with OACI as to how best to roll out that part of it. And first of all, and foremost, we want to see what the appetite for farmers in the basin have for it.
So that money wouldn't be going to the businesses that sell the fertilizer and have the farmers be going to, okay.
No, I think with regard to the fact that this is taxpayer money, that we have to be mindful of that, and that we have to, and Governor DeWine says to me virtually every day, Dorothy, whatever you do, I want the majority of your money to go to the growers and the farmers, and not, other things that we could spend money on. Yes, sir.
Have you learned anything from the Chesapeake Bay project, and is there a project accomplished, or like?
There, I believe, it's nitrogen. Lori Stevenson, who is the director of EPA, has spent a lot of time on that and has shared that information and data with us on a regular basis. There's so many different things that we can look at and learn from. And at some point, in the spring, we decided we had to start making decisions about what we were going to do. Every day that I'm at the State House, one legislator or another says to me, so when are you going to get started? What are you going to do? And as the governor said, for now, this is what we're going to try. Let's look at what other states are doing. We've had other states come in and visit us, talk to us about the programs that they've had, and the various successes and failures they've had. But this is the program we're going to embark on now, with the help of all of these partners. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Most of this, or all of it, is devoted to agriculture. There's a lot of huge cities around a lot of these lakes and streams, and when we have major flooding, their septic, or their treating their septic systems cannot keep up, it overflows. Do you ever have a percentage of how much of that goes to the lakes and what percentage that contributes to the pollution?
We do. And with regard to manufacturing, the manufacturers will tell you we're already regulated. Now, are there violators? Yes. Are there spills? Yes. But we also know from the data that 85% of the phosphorus loading in the Maumee Basin is due to agriculture. And so that is the premise upon which we are going to embark to try to effectuate change in this biennium.
Well, I'm not criticizing, I'm just, what you're doing, I'm just saying, I know there's other contributors.
There certainly are. There certainly are. I mean, when we talk to farmers, they'll say, well, what about the golf courses? And what about all these other things that contribute to it? Sure, there are other contributors. We all recognize that. And I'm the director of agriculture. I'm not the director of some company or some golf course or anything else. My job is to listen to my boss, the governor, who directs me to say, this is what we want to do for this biennium with these funds based upon the best expert evidence that we have. It's an experiment, but it's going to be dependent on farmers willing to engage in these practices and willing to help us understand which of these practices are making a difference, which of the return on investment of these practices is most meaningful. Yes, sir.
I believe most of us in here probably believe that no-till will be on that list. You said initially you started out with 300.
Yes.
And narrowed it down to 100, I believe. Can you tell me, or do you know where no-till came in on that list?
I don't know. I mean, the war room was an entire room with sheets up around all 4 walls, and we had to study each one of them based on cost, effectiveness, and what we can do within this first 2 years. Will no-till be something that we will be funding in the future? Very possibly. Some of these we may decide 2 years from now just simply don't have the return on investment that we anticipated. Some of these are clearly not appropriate for one part of Ohio and more appropriate for another, or even farm to farm. So, there was a question there.
Are you working with Ontario?
Yes, there's something called the Great Lakes Compact. Now, as the Director of Agriculture, I am not a member of that, but Mary Merz is the Director of ODNR and Lori Stevenson as Director of EPA are both involved in that. And they provide us with their quarterly updates of what's happening there. Yes, we're mindful that everyone contributes to this algae problem. But interestingly, as I said before, their issue is nitrogen and not phosphorus. So, anything else? Well, I just want to say thank you. And I think, again, the key to this is the building of relationships between our department and all of you, and the sustaining of those relationships through constant communication. My door is always open. I would love to hear from you and your thoughts. In your community, sit down with you at your kitchen table or at my office and hear your thoughts as we move forward with this important project.